What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and this one I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for as time progresses. I'm also going to talk about some very important headlines about the markets, what's going on with the economic calendar, and how things are looking in my opinion. But before I begin the devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very, very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's going on with the market. Looking at SPY, this thing started to actually push going into yesterday, and then as we opened during the pre-market, SPY started to push higher, and we actually did end up filling this gap exactly as I predicted would happen, and the move was made during the pre-market. So SPY went all the way up to 475. It's kind of rejecting a bit. Now it's trying to hold this support right now, and we're seeing buyers defending it. We got a nice bounce so far. It happened in the pre-market, and this is close to expectations. Now the question is this going to hold? I'll be talking about those levels in just a few minutes. I'll be watching to see if that holds. I also want to call out that on Tesla, I predicted this gap would get filled. We actually pushed quite a bit till about 219, kind of rejected a bit. We're going to be looking for another push on Tesla to see if it could hold support. As of right now, Tesla's holding up nicely. Nice little push gap up on Tesla, looking quite good. QQQ got a nice push as well. We're actually up quite nicely on the QQQ, up to this 410 to 411 area right now, exactly as predicted, right? In my video, I said a bounce is likely going to come today. We got our bounce so far in the pre-market, and we're going to be watching to see how the market holds. But now let's talk about some factors which are going to affect the markets and whether or not the market could continue. So we had Bostic giving a speech, the market's holding up for now. Then we had the initial jobless claims data. Initial jobless claims was below expectations. This is once again showing us that the jobs numbers are a little bit stronger than expected. Continuing jobless claims were once again very close to expectations. So overall, I would say that the markets responded quite positively to this, holding up quite nicely. And going forward, there's not really much else coming out. We just have Bostic giving a speech at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then we have the 4-week and 8-week bill auctions at the same time, some mortgage data, and then Bostic giving another speech at around 12:05 p.m. So that's pretty much it for today. Kind of quiet in terms of the rest of the day for data. So we'll be watching to see what this causes for now. Now we also have other things coming up. The U.S. economy is chipping away, basically at hopes for interest rate cuts this year, but not entirely. It's basically just at least for the month of March for now. The Fed is going to likely cut sometime in 2024. It's just that we're not sure about March. But the headline is still saying something that's very true. The market is changing its expectations. On top of this, there is also something else very important. JP Morgan Chase's CEO said that he thinks it's a mistake to assume everything is hunky-dory. He's basically saying that there are very powerful forces out there which could still affect shipping routes and end up affecting the economy. So he says we have to be prepared. And I do agree with him. It is important to be prepared. Google's going to cut more jobs this year, as CEO Sundar Pichai ended up saying. That's about another 12,000 jobs. Apple has found a way to basically found a way around a possible ban on the watch sales of its watch models in the US, and it's going to remove the blood oxygen reading from the version of its Aapl Series 9. That's for the watch and the Ultra 2, and they're going to start going on sale on Thursday, so that's bullish news for them. And besides that, Sheryl Sandberg is leaving Meta's board, basically. She was a key figure in the rise to dominance. So that's going to be very important for them. But that's pretty much it. We had some news involving big tech that was making headlines. We had some earnings. We had basically TSM, ticker symbol TSM, not to mention a couple of other banks out there. From what I was looking at, TSM, not TSM for now, but now we first have the Texas Capital Bank shares. They basically kind of missed on EPS. Revenue was also a slight miss. Guidance was not that strong, so a little bit weak. But TSM, that's the ticker symbol for TSMC, they actually beat on profit and revenue expectations for the fourth quarter, and they had very, very strong guidance, if anything, for what I was looking at. So strong guidance. They did relatively well, and they ended up technically beating on revenue and also on EPS, so not bad whatsoever. So some companies had strong earnings, other ones were kind of weak, very mixed overall once again. Now let's talk about the market. So looking at SPY, we're holding 474 support. if we lose 474, I mean, we have this entire support zone at 473.8 to 474. If we lose this zone of support, our next target is going to be around this 472.9 area as the key support. We have to try to hold above this 473 area. If we lose this, there's 472, 471.3, and then 470. So what are some levels I'm watching for on SPY? I'm going to switch over to this chart right here. It's always the daily 20 EMA at 471.5 is a critical support. And on the 4-hour time frame, I want to see if it could hold above 473.5. The 4-hour is about to turn bullish here if we do push higher, so there's still potential for this to push. But make sure you watch this. So we might drop a little bit as we open, but this does kind of resemble like a cup and handle, even if we do drop a little bit upon open, so we can always bounce and push higher. So in my opinion, we're going to be watching these supports. Make sure you watch resistance simultaneously around 475, 476 flat, 477, 476.5, and 477. If we break before 477, watch for a push for 478. This is resembling a cup and handle to me, so I think that this might drop a little bit as we open and try to reverse and start pushing. Watch and see if you can try to hold above 475 and then push up even higher than that. But overall, make sure you watch and see how well this can hold. We could actually retrace a little bit first, and we'll see if it bounces around 473. So watch this very, very carefully. Watch this cup and handle like formation, and we'll see how well we hold our support. Tesla, on the other hand, it was pushing very nicely upon open. Not open, but like the pre-market. But when we started the pre-market session, it is retracing a bit to 217.7, which is where we had the breakout. It has a gap that's unfilled. It hasn't fully filled the gap yet. So watch support at 217. If we lose that, there's 215. If we lose that, there's 213.8 and 212. Resistance you're going to be watching. I mean, it did reject off 219, but we could break this. There's not much resistance right there historically. 220 is where we have stronger resistance. 222.5, 223.5, and then 225, followed by 226 and 228 up here, right? We're going to be watching these levels way up here. I also want to note that as far as Tesla goes, we have kind of like that cup and handle like formation. Could drop a little bit more, and it could still retrace to about 217 or so, even hit 215, then bounce. But we haven't fully finished filling this gap, so I'm going to be looking to see if we could try to hold up. Watch and see if this thing can get a nice push back up to 220 and try to fill this gap. Hasn't finished filling the gap. And if it does end up filling the gap, this could help this thing push even higher potentially. So we're going to be watching to see if Tesla can try to break above these levels. I also want to see if Tesla could break above 223.5. If we achieve that, Tesla could start to uptrend. So watch and see if we can get a nice bounce. Let's see if Tesla can try to fill this gap back up to 220. So far, it's attempting to bounce, but we have to see if it could hold. On the QQQ, it's the same thing. QQQ is looking relatively strong. We actually rejected off 411.6, coming back down to 410. If that fails us, our next support is 408, 406, and 405.7. Resistance, you're going to be watching basically 411 to 411.5, 412, and then 413 above that, followed by 414. The QQQ is retracing just a bit, so watch how it holds around this 410 area. Could retrace a bit more, but we're still up very nicely considering that this thing closed at 407. So it's actually up pretty strongly so far. And watch and see how it holds around this 410 area. Could retrace just a little bit more for it attempts to bounce. So watch that carefully. So far, it's holding up very, very nicely. On Nvda stock, I just want to mention that Nvda basically broke above the resistance. Right now, it has this level right here, this support around 572. We also have 570, and if that fails us, there's this 568 zone. And then below that, we also have 565, followed by 562.5 and 560. For resistance, I'm going to be watching this very important level up here. We're going to be watching this zone right here. There's a pattern on Nvda, so the next support is going to be around this 577 to 578 area is going to be our next major resistance above 575, and then we have 580 coming up above that. So I'll be watching these levels very, very closely. This is our next level up here. This is just based off a pattern because you can see that this thing has resistance within these specific zones from every $10 move. So we have 575 as resistance, 577 to 578, 580 would be coming next, and 582. Right now, Nvda pushed higher, starting to reject a bit. Let's see if it comes back up down to 570, if it tries to hold from here. But overall, the trend is still looking bullish. It could come down a bit more and try bouncing. It's still holding up very nicely, so not bad whatsoever. And this is actually helping the market, and especially the QQQ push up quite well, dictating the flow of the market. So it looks bullish. We'll see if this thing can try to break 575. I'm thinking it might retrace a bit towards at least 570 before it tries to bounce. But overall, the trend is bullish on Nvidia, and this could help the market hold up. Not bad whatsoever. Last but not least, we have Aapl stock. Aapl got a bounce exactly as I was predicting. Got a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. Nice accumulation schematic. If anything, I was talking about yesterday liquidity. Liquidity was king. They were grabbing liquidity right here where this wick was, getting ready for a push to the upside. I called this out yesterday. I told you Aapl might bounce and help the markets. There's your bounce, right? I talked about this gap to get filled. I said if 183.5 broke, expect at least 185 on Aapl. This thing pushed all the way up to 187.25, rejected off that, and now it's essentially still trying to hold up from right here. So overall, I would say it's looking pretty decent. We had this resistance now. This is going to be another level I'm going to be watching for just to be safe. This 187 to 187.25 area. Watch resistance now at 186.5, 187.25, 188, and then above that we have 189 and 190. For support, watch 185.5, 185, 184.25, 183.5, and then 182.5. Aapl got a nice accumulation and a nice bounce, nice push to the upside after the bullish news came out about their Apple Watch being able to get its sales as they got around the wash rule. And that's good news for them. They're trying to push up higher. So this chart favors the bulls a bit after such a big green bar. It's not just going to like collapse immediately. Typically, that's not what happens. When you have like a big bar like that, we tend to try to continue to hold, consolidate, and try to push higher. So you might see this thing try to continue to push, which could help the market up. Apple's looking pretty strong. Let's see if this thing could break the high from the pre-market. If it breaks that, we're going to be pushing into the 188s, which could drag the market higher. So this favors the bulls a bit more, and this could help SPY and other stocks out there push higher. All right, so right now, the market is attempting to bounce, but let's see if we could try to hold our levels. Some stocks are retracing a bit, such as SPY and also the QQQ, just retracing a little bit, but let's see if they can find their bottoms and start to bounce intraday. So watch your levels very carefully. I called this bounce yesterday. I made a video about why I thought the market was going to bounce soon. We're already bouncing. So the bounce did come, and let's see if it lasts from this point on. So thank you for listening. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you guys very soon, and peace out.